Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I kind of want to like correct something from a different video, which is it's a whole thing. Basically, obviously, you know, Comic-Con, like the trailers for the Arrowverse stuff came out, you know, so I made a video kind of talking about like, oh, stuff, you know, the new seasons and stuff like that. And there was one particular part of the video that I was talking about something that kind of popped up. In particular, this thing I'm referencing popped up in the Heroes and Villains trailer on the CW YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, I'll include a link to it in the description down below. But essentially in this video, I got everything wrong, so now I'm trying to like making an entire video to kind of correct it. I'll explain in a little bit like what it was I got wrong, which is so funny to say all that because kind of a little bit behind the scenes for you guys is the fact is I haven't even started editing that video that I'm referencing, so it's just kind of funny talking about something, cutting something out that I haven't even cut out yet. But kind of beside the point, but to the point, let me kind of get to what I'm talking about. So basically the mistake I was making after watching the Hero and Villain trailer, it introduces a certain character, and that character in my mind, because I'm not well versed in comic books, I thought was Batgirl, like Barbara Gordon, which I'm sure there's probably been other people who've, you know, taken that mantle. I don't know, maybe she's the only one. It's always interesting in certain cases because there's some people who've always been that one particular superhero and then other people have taken up the mantle. There's that whole thing. Nevertheless, that was my mistake because I thought that was Batgirl. I thought like, oh, this whole thing is setting up a Batgirl thing. It's like, no, it's setting up Batwoman, a completely different character. Essentially, it's this woman named Kate who's kind of in a similar situation as Bruce. She's a very wealthy person, at least from what I was reading about her origins. Like, once again, I think these, I don't know if it still pertains to her more modern day interpretations. Like, you know, originally this seems like this was kind of tied to her original origin story, but nevertheless, she got inspired by Batman and kind of wanted to do her own thing, and she became Batwoman. Once again, different character entirely from Batgirl, which is what the mistake I was making. Also, because it seems like I think I missed the whole point of the trailer was saying that like, oh, this is a crossover event, but I think from it, she is getting her own spin-off show, so that's still pretty neat. I'll kind of reiterate some of the stuff that I talked about in the original video, which I'm cutting that segment out, but the things I think can still apply is the fact of the matter is I believe that this spin-off could take place on Earth 38 where Supergirl takes place. I think, like I said, I haven't read too much into it. It's just these little bits of things about the characters and potentially the show that could be spun off from this that I really, you know, what I saw, but like I said, I didn't read too deeply into it just because it's like, oh, I want to be surprised when the character like first pops up to really get to know them. Because from what I was reading too, it's not just her character, Gotham City in general is kind of getting introduced, which makes sense because in the crossover in particular, but obviously it makes sense in general because it's like, well, yeah, because if she's getting her own show, obviously it's going to take place in Gotham, which I'm curious to see what the Arrowverse and Gotham is going to be like, what kind of villains we see pop up. Because it's interesting because let's not forget we had the whole Gotham situation going down, but to be fair, that's Gotham like in this past. This would be like present day Gotham and stuff like that, so we'll be dealing with villains in a different light and stuff like that because it's obviously a different continuity than that, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. Now the reason why I think it's so interesting that, you know, at least from what I'm thinking that is going to be set up on Earth 38, like it could be entirely on a different Earth, but I like to think it's going to take place on Earth 38 because I feel like, especially with the whole Arrowverse situation, most of the stuff that goes down takes place on Earth 1. You get a little peek at Earth 2, Earth 3, other Earths like Earth 19 and Earth X, but the fact of the matter is like most continuity with the superheroes and stuff, like everything Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl, Legends related takes place on Earth 1, so I think it'd be kind of neat to kind of flesh out like Earth 38 a little bit more, especially because out of any of those places, like Kara's kind of referenced like Batman and Gotham City like multiple times in a sense of like, you know, it kind of comes up a lot in Supergirl's continuity, and she's kind of made references to like masked vigilantes because she doesn't really like them, which is interesting considering the fact is, you know, because you remember that was around the time Jimmy had become Guardian, so she kind of gave him a lot of flack for it just because she didn't like the whole idea of masked vigilantes and stuff like that, which I still find fascinating because it's like, well, there's Oliver and everything, but then to be fair, like she's cool with Oliver, but I feel like out of anyone she's like the best buds with Barry, but I think she still respects and is cool with Oliver, but it's just like that conversation never comes up. I guess it's kind of like, oh, he's on a different Earth, things run differently, so I can't really tell him what to do type of thing. Earth 38 has made the most references to like Gotham in particular. Like I said, there have been other like Batman related references in the Arrowverse, but they feel like they really push it a lot on Earth 38, so that'd be kind of interesting if that ends up being the case. That's always kind of been my assumption and stuff like that. I mean, too, because it would feed into that dynamic of, you know, like Batman and Superman, but now you have like Supergirl and Batwoman. So I'd like to see kind of that dynamic of just like maybe seeing even like crossover between their two shows, especially if they take place on the same Earth, because that's another thing. Like if there's any crossover between Supergirl and the other shows, it has to be like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a big crossover event, most likely would be, but also it'd have to be like a situation of like, it'd be every once in a while crossing over like that, because it's more of a thing because you have to travel across the multiverse into a different Earth. And if the whole Batwoman situation and Gotham all take place on Earth 38, it'd be a lot more likely to have some crossover conversations and stuff like that. My question to you guys is, how do you feel about this news about the whole Batwoman situation? Are you excited? Are you like me? Is this another character you had no idea? Were you like me who was under the impression when they saw, I was like, oh, that's got to be Batgirl, because I didn't know that there was Batwoman and that there was a distinction between the two. So let me know your thoughts and how you feel about this whole situation in the comments down below. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.